All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in to this week's Top 5 with MovieByte. I am your host, Ruben. You can follow me on my social media platforms at Atticus_95. And today's episode, I'm going to be talking about a great Mexican director, Mr. Guillermo del Toro himself. He doesn't get any better than this. This is one of my other favorite directors. This man is known for making spiritual and fantasy and poetry. What's up, Jesse? Thanks, bro. This man has done everything. Personally, he's a great filmmaker, great storyteller. He has done numerous works. He's currently has a Netflix show called Tales of Arcadia, Troll Hunters. They just announced the third chapter of that trilogy, animated trilogy. This man had the opportunity to almost become the director of Thor, right? Who eventually was directed by Mr. Kenneth Branagh, but he had to turn it down due to scheduling conflicts. This man has been approached by numerous studios to bring big projects to the big screen. He has been a fan of comic books for years, a fan of horror movies for years, like Creature of the Black Lagoon, Frankenstein's Monster, The Bride of Frankenstein. Can I find this in Spanish? You can find it in Spanish. Yeah, you can definitely find it in Spanish. You put subtitles on, brother. His movies are magic. They are. Hey, what's up, my man? So look, Guillermo del Toro. Let's start off, okay? This wasn't an easy list to make, and I want to just say to everybody out there, again, this is my choice. This is my top 5. If you guys have another top 5, feel free to leave comments while I comment with you guys live, and we'll start this, okay? So let's start with my number 5. Okay, so my number 5 film. This was actually Guillermo del Toro's first film, full feature length. It was released in 1993, and it pretty much established the relationship of Guillermo del Toro hiring Ron Perlman to most of his movies. It also starred Federico Lupi, which is a very famous actor, if I'm not mistaken, Italian. So my number 5 film is going to be Cronos. All right, Cronos, which is another word for time. Basically, the plot of this movie revolves about a device mechanism that can grant you pretty much eternal life, and we just see through this movie how the consequences of that. Right, like I said, this is the first time that Ron Perlman works with Guillermo del Toro. He went on to work on other films with him, including Blade 2, more famously known for Hellboy 2. For those who don't know who Ron Perlman is, he was in a very successful show. One of my favorite shows, Sons of Anarchy. He played Clay Morrow on that show. But a couple of fun facts about Cronos is that it was a very low budget film for Mr. Del Toro. He actually went into debt to finance this movie because it was, again, his first feature film, and he wrote it. And this is where we can start seeing his elements of fantasy and Sons of Anarchy. Yeah, that's a hell of a show. His elements of fantasy and about related to vampires, monsters, all that stuff. So he went into debt trying to produce this film, and eventually it paid off. It's a film that's considered a cult classic. It is part of the Criterion collection as well. This is where we first start seeing clockwork as a director's trademark. Further on, we start seeing a lot of clockwork mechanisms in all his movies. Ron is a great character actor. He is. Ron Perlman is amazing actor. Very amazing. So Universal Studios actually approached Del Toro to buy the rights of this film, to make it in English and remake it, for what Del Toro said no. He said, no, this is a passion project, and it will ruin the essence of what it is if I sell it. So he wasn't a sellout. So if you haven't had the opportunity to see Cronos, I would totally recommend it. It's a beautiful work of art, and it's just you can start seeing the roots of who Guillermo del Toro is. All right. Yo, what's up, Psych? Thanks for joining in. All right. So that was my number 5. So for my number 4, right? You see number. I gotta point this way. Yeah, that way. There we go. Number 4 right there. So my number 4 is, again, this is a movie that is Marvel property. Pretty much because of this franchise, we have movies like Iron Man, Thor. We have the Marvel Cinematic Universe because this franchise pretty much saved the studio itself. And I'm talking about Blade 2, starring Wesley Snipes, released in 2002. Okay, a lot of people forget that this movie was actually directed by Guillermo del Toro, and if you see Blade 1 and then you see 2 and then you see Trinity, you can see the different styles of directing, obviously, because the first movie was directed by Stephen Norrington, who went on to do a couple more films after that, and then he retired. Saw it last night. Very underrated. I mean, it's best. It's best. Blade 2 is actually in my opinion, the best out of the trilogy. I'm not taking away from number 1 because it has a great story, but I feel like Blade 2 just gives it a different element, And again, we see this fantasy trademark of Del Toro himself. We find Blade joining forces with a vampire clan to kill a group of mutated vampires called the Reapers, that attack differently, right? It's full of great action scenes. Again, Blade 2 is the best. It is. Ron Perlman, again, is in it. We got Norman Reedus, who's famously known for portraying Walking Dead, and playing Daryl. Chris Christopherson, Carl Roden. We have a good amount of people in this movie. A couple of fun facts. Wesley Snipes has stated that this is his favorite movie that he's done. I may have to rewatch it since I consider it to be the weakest of the trilogy. In my honest opinion, really you can't tell me that you find Blade Trinity better than Blade 2. I'm sorry. I need to, if you say that, I need to reevaluate our friendship, my man. I can't allow that. So another fun fact is Michael Jackson was supposed to have a cameo in this movie. He was supposed to play a vampire pimp in the club scene in the movie, but he had to drop out due to scheduling conflicts, so that never turned out. So in an alternate universe, we should have seen Michael Jackson. Absolutely not. The first is the best. Okay, all right. I'll give you that one. Thank you for that, because I really was going to reevaluate our friendship after that comment, but you saved yourself. And I'll give it to you. I mean, Blade 1 it's a great film, but again, I just feel like 2 has something different that just makes it special. So, yo, what's up, Jeff? Sadly, not a huge Del Toro fan from a directing standpoint. Fair enough. It's not everybody's cup of tea, Also, Del Toro is known he's also known like the big 3 of Mexican cinema. He's there with Alfonso Cuarón and Alejandro Iñárritu, who obviously Alejandro Iñárritu directed like The Revenant, Birdman. Cuarón did Roma recently, Prisoner of Azkaban. So Guillermo del Toro is known as the big 3. It saved Marvel Studios. It did. The Blade franchise, many don't know, is that they did. I mean, by the time Blade 1 was released, Marvel was almost about to declare bankruptcy, right? And not the Steve Carell, I declare bankruptcy from The Office, but actually declare bankruptcy and file motion. But Blade 1 saved the franchise, and then you have Blade 2 in 2002, and then we had that same year Spider-Man, and that pretty much revamped the whole comic book genre and to what we have nowadays. So yeah, so Blade kickstarted everything. Blade, it was the first. It's tough to, you can't call Blade an anti-hero because he's. You can't call Blade a hero because he's not really a hero. He's kind of like an anti-hero or vigilante of some sort. But yeah. Love his writing, might be some of the best, but don't like where he takes his movies from directing. Okay, I'll give you that. Okay, totally understandable. All right. It's also Green Blood on the Reapers and Blade 2 was used so they could get an R-rated, an R-rating movie, due to the fact that if they used regular blood, it would have been an NC-17 rated movie because of extreme gore. They had to change the blood of the Reapers to green to get a R-rated for the movie from the Motion Picture Association of America. Also, Blade 2 is the only film that is not written by Del Toro himself. It was written by David S. Goyer, who has done numerous comic book films and ended up directing Blade Trinity a couple of years later with Ryan Reynolds and Jessica Biel. All right. So, that was my number 4, Blade 2. So, number 3. Okay, got the 3 right there. Right there. There we go. There we go. So, number 3 is... And again, this wasn't an easy choice to make, but I feel like this one, it's also a franchise based on a comic book. The first one was really good, but I feel like the second one was even better, in my honest opinion. And you guys can tell me I'm wrong, but it's not going to change my mind. So number 3, we got Hellboy 2, The Golden Army. All right. So Del Toro is coming off from the success of Pan's Labyrinth, so obviously Universal Pictures is going to use that to market the film. Released in 2008. Fun fact about this movie is that Del Toro turned down I Am Legend, Harry Potter, Prisoner of Azkaban, the Halo movie that was in pre-production at that time. He turned those all down to direct Hellboy 2, The Golden Army. I swear the MPAA always has the best things to be picky about over the years. They do. You're wrong. LOL. You shut your face, Jeff. Shut your face. That one's really underrated. So yeah, Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, I feel it has more of Del Toro's touch than what the first one did. Don't get me wrong, I love the first Hellboy. It's a great film. It's a great comic book adaptation of the Magnolia comic book series. But I feel like the story on this one was more to Del Toro style, like the whole fairies and godlike creatures. Not to say Doug Jones, again, he's been in a lot of films with Del Toro. He plays Abe Sapien in this movie, but also he plays the Angel of Death in this movie, and the makeup of that character is just mesmerizing. It's amazing. So another fun fact about Hellboy 2 is that, for those who don't know, Ron Perlman was almost casted to play Piccolo in the Dragon Ball Evolution movie that we all know how that turned out to be. But he turned it down when the opportunity for Hellboy 2 showed up, so he turned it down. So thank God for Hellboy 2, because if not, we would have seen Ron Perlman portraying Piccolo in the disastrous Dragon Ball Evolution. Another interesting choice, so you wasn't kidding about how hard these lists are. They're not... Yeah, they look, these directors have so much good films out there that it's very hard to compile a list of just top 5. If I can make a top 10, it'll be a lot easier, but I want to make this hard for myself. So and also for you guys to judge the content. Almost Hellboy 2 had a sequel. Unfortunately, it was intended to be a trilogy, but because of The Dark Knight, when it premiered a week later, took all the thunder from Hellboy 2, and Hellboy 2 weeks later was considered a flop because of Dark Knight stealing that thunder from them. The studio decided that it was just best to just leave Hellboy as a duology versus a trilogy. Many years later, there was almost an attempt to create the third movie. Del Toro was in for it. Perlman said that he would put on the suit again, but nothing really came out of that. Eventually, Universal Studios lost the rights to distribute any film of Hellboy, and they got bought by Lionsgate. And then they remade Hellboy into a R-rated, darker movie with David Harbour playing Hellboy itself, at a much more darker, much more rugged cursing Hellboy, which is a little bit more closer to what Mike Mignola drew in the comic books and wrote in the comic books, but it wasn't a successful movie. Another fun fact for those Sons of Anarchy fans out there is that Mr. Charlie Hunnam, who portrays Jax Teller in the Sons of Anarchy show, was almost cast as the villain in Hellboy 2, who eventually got played by Mr. Luke Goss, the prince. Charlie Hunnam was very close to be the prince and / the villain of Hellboy 2. The only time DC could do this is that one sucks. So those are little interesting facts about Hellboy 2, released in 2008. And again, these are all, and a lot of the movies that I picked from Del Toro are like passion projects for him. Like, he chose to do these movies because he was connected to them in a way spiritually. So that's what we got. All right, so number 3. No, we're going to number 2 actually. Number 2. Pick number 2, my lord. All right, number 2. There we go. I got to practice with my hands. There we go. Number 2 right there. Again, a lot of people may judge me for this choice, but I just love this film. It's a poem. I describe it as a poem, a love poem between two misunderstood creatures. Okay, and I just gotta say, The Shape of Water. Okay, it's my number 2 movie from Del Toro himself, winner of the Best Picture of the Year on the 2018 Oscars. Released in 2017, won 4 Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Director, I believe Best Writing, if I'm not mistaken, but won 2 of the big ones. Del Toro would have retired from directing if this film flopped. And the same thing he said about films like Pan's Labyrinth and Cronos, and The Devil's Backbone. I know a lot of people don't like Shape of Water, but you gotta look at it differently if to understand it. It's a poem. We're talking about a tale of 2 misunderstood creatures and everybody out around them that are trying to understand them. We got this fictitious relationship of a deaf woman with this humanoid frog-like creature, right? Kind of looks like the creature from the Black Lagoon, right? And they develop this unique romance, and they understand each other, right? Because they're both, again, misunderstood. And this is set in the 1960s. We have Octavia Spencer portraying disgruntled black woman, and then we have Richard Jenkins playing a closeted gay man. And the setting of this movie is just perfect, because we have these 2 characters guiding these 2 misunderstood creatures, which in real time they would have been oppressed because of who they are, right? And it's just an amazing film, and it surprised everybody when it won. Hey man, it's for likes, there's colors out there. I'm not telling you have to like the movie, okay? It's just that it surprised everybody, and nobody expected this movie to win Best Picture in the Academy Awards, but I'm glad it did. Guillermo del Toro became one of the few directors, Mexican directors, to win an Oscar for Best Directing. Guillermo del Toro actually turned down Pacific Rim Uprising to do this film. As many as you know, there was a sequel to Pacific Rim. It wasn't that successful as the other one was. I'm not saying that the first Pacific Rim was successful, but Del Toro wanted to do this because it was another project, passion project of his, and it paid off. The only movie I could accept beating Dunkirk for Best Picture. Okay. All right. I like that. All right. So before we go to number 1, okay, I got 2 honorable mentions for Mr. Del Toro himself. And the first one, this is his attempt to do a romance film, but set in a Gothic era, using the elements of horror. And again, I feel this movie is very underrated, and if you haven't had the chance to at least seen it once, you should definitely check it out. And I'm talking about Crimson Peak, right? Starring Tom Hiddleston, Charlie Hunnam, Jessica Chastain, and Mia. I forgot her last name because it's a long name, but she the main character from Alice in Wonderland in this movie, and this is a kind of like a romance. It's Del Toro's take on romance using the elements of horror and the Gothic era, and it's a very underrated movie. And if you haven't had the chance to see it, I would totally recommend you to check it out. Surprisingly good. It is, yeah. Hearing these fun facts about Del Toro turning down all these movies over the years says how much and how picky he is, since he says things differently. Exactly. That's right. That right there. That's probably the comment of the day. And that's why I like Del Toro, because these movies may be weird to a lot of people out there, but he sees the world differently than what we are used to. And sometimes we need to see the world in that way to just be happy, and understand certain things in life, and that's why I feel like Del Toro is right there with one of my favorite directors. Actually, I have like a little Funko Pop of him that came out a couple of years ago. I bought it. It's in my bag. I was going to bring it out to the show, but I forgot. But later in the future, I'll show you guys. All right. So my other honorable mention, it's another attempt of a franchise that didn't really pan out. I understand what he was trying to do with this movie. I really enjoy watching this movie, and a lot of people see this movie and it reminds you of like Gundam Wing and fighting like big monsters like Godzilla, like the kaijus, like they call them here. And I'm talking about Pacific Rim that was released in 2013, starring sorry, guy. I'm hearing a dog I'm picking a dog in the headphones. I'm trying to figure out what it is. Okay, starring Charlie Hunnam, Ron Perlman, Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Again, this is a film that I really enjoy. It's not everybody's cup of tea. Horrible. I figured you were going to be one of the few people out there to hate. Pacific Rim was really good. Charlie Hunnam and Ron Perlman. Yep. Not everybody enjoys Pacific Rim. I really like it. Jeff, you probably hate it so much because we used to demo the shit out of that movie in at Best Buy. That's probably why you dislike it, right? The show sucks. I'm sorry, I got something. I haven't had the chance to see the show. I know it's on Netflix. It's anime based, but it doesn't pique my interest. Pacific Rim went on to have a sequel that we all know was not directed by Del Toro, but he produced it. Pacific Rim Uprising pretty much picks up a couple of years after the first one, with John Boyega portraying the son of the character that Idris Elba portrayed in the first movie. So those are my two honorable mentions for Del Toro. Don't get me wrong, he has other great movies out there. I'm not a big horror fan, but if you are into horror fan, I would totally recommend the movie The Devil's Backbone. It's another one of his first work. It's a really, really fun and mysterious film to watch. He has also produced a lot of horror movies like Mama, The Orphanage, which has it's one of the best endings that you can find in a movie. True, I told you, I knew it. I mean, It's Always Sunny, yeah. Oh, that show sucks. It's Always Sunny show. No, that show does not sucks. No, get out of here, bro. Get out of here. I'm going to bet that Pan's Labyrinth is number. You are absolutely correct, my man. Why Pan's Labyrinth not be number one film with Del Toro? Absolutely. Thank you for bringing it up, my brother. Yes, Pan's Labyrinth is my number one film from Del Toro. I love this film. I have it on DVD. I have it on Blu-ray. I bought the Criterion Collection edition when it came out, and I just picked it up on digital on 4K resolution. I love this movie. It's a movie. It was Mexico's entry for best foreign film. It's set in Spain. We have a story of misunderstood species. Now we have this girl that's trying to escape her reality, and she escapes into a magnificent world that is controlled by a faun named Pan, right? And there you go. This is Doug Jones playing the faun, right? And not only did Doug Jones plays that character, he plays the pale man in that movie, one of the freakiest characters out there. This movie can give you nightmares if you've seen it for the first time. This is an amazing film. His best movies. Yep, sucks. No, let's leave it at there. It's Always Sunny does not suck. Okay, you just don't have a good sense of humor, sir. Anyways, Pan's Labyrinth. If you have not seen Pan's Labyrinth, I do not know what you're waiting for. As soon as this show ends, rent it, buy it. You need to watch it. Obviously, it's in Spanish, so if you don't understand Spanish, put subtitles on. Fun fact about the subtitles, though, is that Del Toro actually supervised the subtitles himself. He actually translated the whole movie himself because he doesn't trust people translating his movies into subtitles. So the subtitles that you see in the movie for English are accurate, are created by Del Toro himself. Not surprising that this is number one. It's actually his greatest film and made him a household name. Yeah. It's because of Pan's Labyrinth. All his movies starting using that as a tagline to market his movies. We saw it in Hellboy 2. We saw it in Crimson Peak. It put Del Toro's name out there. Absolutely. Before that, we obviously had films like Blade 2. He did Mimic for Miramax, which is about giant cockroaches. And then he had a couple of independent films like Cronos, like I mentioned earlier. But Pan's Labyrinth just put his name definitely out there. A couple of fun facts about this is that Del Toro refused multiple offers from Hollywood to make the film in English. Studios wanted this film in English, but he said no. He wanted to do it in Spanish. And again, it was a personal touch of his. It would have lost the essence of making this film in English. Most likely not targeting any American or English speaking audience out there, but a lot of people wouldn't understand the concept of this, and the element of this movie being in Spanish just makes it unique. Del Toro also gave up his salary to make this film, to something that he does not regret to this day. It was worth it in multiple interviews. Received a 22-minute ovation at the Cannes Films Festival. It wouldn't be the same. I agree. It wouldn't be the same. And look at this. Another movie that Del Toro turned down to make this movie that nobody would have said that. And in an alternate universe, it would have been a great film. The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was almost directed by Guillermo del Toro. But he turned it down to do Pan's Labyrinth. So in an alternate universe out there is a Chronicles of Narnia film that is directed by Del Toro himself. All right? Amazing. So yeah, my number one film, Pan's Labyrinth. So a quick recap for everybody that's joining in now, and we're about to end the show. Number 5, we had... go back here real quick. Number 5, we had Cronos. Number 4, Blade 2. Number 3, Hellboy 2, The Golden Army. Number 2, The Shape of Water. And honorable mentions, Crimson Peak, Pacific Rim, and again, number one film, Pan's Labyrinth, from this gentleman right there, holding his 2 Oscars when he won The Shape of Water, Best Director and Best Movie. Haters gotta hate, but Del Toro himself, thank you. And keep on doing great work. You got a fan here. I'll be continuing buying any movie that you make, watching any movie you make, because I just love your work, sir. All right, ladies and gentlemen. This has been an exciting episode of Top 5 with MovieByte. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to follow us on social media at MovieByte Podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube. Find us on your favorite podcasting app. Catch up with Season 1 of MovieByte. Season 2 is around the corner. Just a couple more months, and we'll be back reviewing all of your favorite movies. And again, thank you so much. And next week, I'm going to do another Top 5. This is going to be a very difficult one. But I'm going to do a top 5 of Mr. Ridley Scott himself. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope to see all of you next week when I discuss top 5 of Ridley Scott. My name is Ruben again. You can find me at Atticus_95 on any Instagram and social media platform. And again, thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I'll see you all next week.